Let's go over some of the Pittsburgh Steelers free agents in 2025 and which ones maybe should they entertain bringing back and which ones should they just simply part ways with. Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Appreciate you diving in here on a Wednesday. Let's talk Steelers. Let's talk football. Ahead of the Super Bowl here. We're right ahead of the Super Bowl. So let's talk some free agent stuff here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some of the players that they are going to have in free agency that maybe they could go out there and try to bring back. Some of the players that may mean a little bit more and some that may mean a little bit less to this football team moving forward into the future. First, I just seen this. I'm not sure how long this news has been out there, but Charles Chuck Connor, 87 years old, a former Pittsburgh Steelers scout, who was instrumental in starting that original Steel Curtain, drafting players like Mean Joe Green, guys like that, building that original Steelers roster that created the dynasty of the 70s where the Pittsburgh Steelers were so dominant. Chuck Connor, a McKees Rock native, Montour High School, in the NFL for almost 4 decades. At least that's how long his career was, a little over 4 decades. Passed away, I believe it said January 20th. I just saw that, so I wanted to say condolences to him and his family. Especially a guy that's just a native of the Pittsburgh area that put so much into the Pittsburgh Steelers and had such a long career. So condolences to Chuck Connor, 87 years old, so a former Pittsburgh Steelers scout. Let's dive in, and I thought that was fitting too whenever I saw that, to say that when I'm talking about free agency. These scouts work so hard week in, week out, day in, day out, trying to build these rosters, and they are very instrumental in the product that you see out on the field. So I thought that fit really well with this show, and also something that we could, give our well wishes to the family, a man that lived a very long life. So again, let's dive in here. 2025 free agents, we're going to dive into some of the big ones. Dante Jackson, guys like the whole quarterback room, Kyle Allen, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Dan Moore Jr., James Daniels, Nate Herbig, guy was injured all season. James Daniels, the guy that was injured basically all season long. 2 big linemen there. Dan Moore Jr., another part of the line that was a starter at the left tackle position. A Landon Roberts, Van Jefferson. So many players here that were parts of this football team that, were mainstays. And guys like Landon Roberts, in my opinion, will start there on the defensive side of the football and work our way back over to the offense, because the offense got quite a few more of significant names. You had guys like Cam Hayward that would have been entering free agency this year, but they were able to get him some new money on a new deal. A guy that played really young, in my opinion. He faltered a little bit down the stretch, but I thought Cam had an ultra-productive year. So the Steelers were able to avoid that with him. But we look at a guy like Landon Roberts, a guy like Landon that means so much to this football team in terms of leadership, his ability to play the run, his ability to be very reliable, a veteran that has won a Super Bowl. I think that's somebody that you want to continue to do business with if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers as a depth piece of high quality. Landon is a guy that I would definitely try to keep in the building if the price is right. I wouldn't overpay for him considering his age, the amount of time he's been in the league. I don't know what the financial situation is with the Landon Roberts right now and what he is looking for, but I think the Steelers need to make a really concerted effort to bring in Landon Roberts for yet another contract to remain a Pittsburgh Steeler, to finish out his career, in my opinion, at least for right now. Barring injury, barring any sharp decline from Landon Roberts. But he was a real key instrumental cog in that defense for many, many snaps this season. So somebody I think that definitely needs to be retained. Then you look at a cornerback, Dante Jackson, a guy that was brought in with the Deontay Johnson trade out of Carolina. I think he played really well. I do. And I know some people have their gripes about Dante, but if you can get him at a right price, I think it's another player that you could retain that could really play more of a role player, in my opinion. I don't want to see him as the number 2 guy all the time. I want to see him in and out of the lineup in the bigger packages. I'd like to see him out there. I don't want to see him as an every down cornerback. So if you can get him at the right price, I think you go out there and try to bring in some young talent. Hopefully Corey Trice starts to really develop and stays healthy. But it gives you an option, a guy that is starter capable, a guy that has started many games, a guy that has tremendous speed, a guy that had a lot of turnovers this season. So Dante Jackson, I believe, again, is a guy that you would want to bring back. But again, it has to be the right price, guys. You can't overpay for these players at this juncture of their career. You look at Landon, you look at Dante. Guys that, again, if you could get at a reasonable deal, I'm not saying that you shortchange them, but a very reasonable deal, I think it's something that you got to look at and something that you got to think about when you're talking about depth of this football team. Because remember, depth is the key to winning, man. Football teams that have extreme depth are able to weather the storm during the season, during that regular season, and allows them to be healthy heading into the playoffs. So, again, Dante Jackson, a guy that was a major contributor in my opinion. Yes, he had his downfalls, but that was his first year in the system, and I think that he could get a slightly better heading into 2025 here for your Pittsburgh Steelers. So Dante Jackson, another guy that I think they should try to retain here moving forward. Let's also make sure we didn't miss anybody on the defense. No, I wrote down the guys that I wanted to talk about here. Also, let's move now over to that offensive side of the football. That's the big one. You talk about free agency. You talk about 3 linemen that are going into the free agency market. One being the guy that was supposed to start at center over top of the rookie, Nate Herbig. Nate Herbig. Why do I hate when brothers are on a football team, guys? I hate it. Why? Because I especially these guys, Nick, Nate, it's just so confusing because when you're trying to run through everything, it's just constantly that the other one's name pops into your head. I absolutely hate it. But anyway, Nate Herbig, a guy that could be a depth piece. If you can get him, again, at a valuable, I mean a very cheap price, I think that you could entertain that for depth. I don't think Herbig should be a starter in any way, which way, shape, or form. Now, if he believes he should be a starter and he wants to go elsewhere, by all means, allow him. Don't get in a bidding war for Herbig. I wouldn't do it. If he wants to come back after he explores the market and realizes maybe he's not going to get the value that he thinks, maybe you are able to bring him back on a very cheap deal. I would not spend any type of significant money on Mr. Herbig. I would just really, really, really try to bring Nate back on a super cheap deal. Add that depth. Again, it's very, very important. So if you're able to do that, I think it's something you should think about, but I don't think this is a guy that you should overly pursue in any which way, shape, or form. I don't think it's somebody that you have to have on your roster. I think you can find another guy like him at a more reasonable price if he prices himself out of being on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you look at James Daniels. That's a guy that you got to let walk, a guy that you're not going to pay the money he's warranted, the money he's going to get in that market, especially when you had Mason McCormick have such a promising season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which allows you to be very young along that offensive line. And I think that that's something that the Steelers really have to value here, the youth of that offensive line, and maybe trying to keep the spending down while you can and still have a quality product out there. You look at guys like Broderick Jones. Eventually, if you're going to keep him on the football team, he's inching toward that second contract. So you got to start preparing for that stuff if it's somebody you're going to want to keep. Again, James Daniels is somebody they're going to let walk. I don't foresee them doing any type of business with James Daniels after that Achilles injury. I believe that's what he had in Achilles. I believe so. I may be wrong. Maybe it was a knee or something, but I could have swore it was an Achilles. Maybe I'm wrong. It was so long ago. But anyway, yeah, James Daniels, I just don't think the Steelers are going to be able to do business with. First and foremost, I think it's going to cost too much money. And secondly, I think the Steelers are looking to get younger, not stay in that status quo of age that they have in some of those positions. Yeah, I just don't think they should go after Mr. James Daniels. I don't think they will. I think that that's a done deal. Then you look at Dan Moore Jr., a guy that started at left tackle, but you know the story. Broderick is expected to be that guy at the left tackle spot. Broderick had his struggles this year, a big struggle. His first year, his rookie season, was somebody that you could count on, that used his brute strength and was able to do good things for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he had a very tumultuous relationship with the team here over the 2024-2025 season here, where he was benched at times, where he was sat, and it wasn't a good look. But yet the Steelers weren't able to get him moved over to that left tackle spot where I truly think he needs to be. I truly think that's where he fits. So I really am a believer in Broderick. I think that this year was just one of those years, growing pains. I think he'll be far better in year 3 and 4. I think it's somebody that the Steelers definitely want to keep on that left side. So why bring back a guy like Dan Moore Jr.? I just don't see it being something the Steelers should entertain. I think the price will be far more than the value that you're getting currently on the field, the value of play from Dan Moore. He had periods this season where he played great. He played really, really well, but that was against a little bit lesser competition at times. And I think that the Steelers really need to evaluate his play against some of these better teams because it wasn't good. And I think he played himself out of a contract. I think early in the season he was playing himself into a deal, but yet at the end he really played himself out of it. And if I were the Steelers, I would not entertain that at all. And it's another player along that offensive line that you let walk. So there's 2 players you just let walk well, 3 probably. Herbig, Daniels, and Moore. That's 3 of them out of the way here. But you look at the Steelers offensively across that offensive line: Broderick Jones, Zach Frazier, Isaac Seumalo, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fautanu. I think that that's an excellent basis to start building a really young, great group. And I know Isaac's kind of the odd man out there, the elder statesman, and I do look for the Steelers to try to figure out a way to alleviate his cap number and try to figure out how to replace him some way, somehow, but I'm not sure how they do that yet. You might have to ride with him another year. I don't know. But again, the Steelers are looking to get young, and I think they've done an excellent job of bringing in a significant group of young players that is going to create that nucleus for that offensive line. And again, guys, it takes 2-3 years for an offensive line that's really young to start playing well. And I look for this offensive line to be really, really good in the next 2 years. 1 to 2 years, I would say that this offensive line is one of the league's best and one of the league's youngest offensive lines across the board. So again, 3 offensive linemen probably out the door, probably not going to be back, man. And does that scare you? I don't think it should. I think there's enough young players in that building that it should be comforting to know that they are headed in the right direction along that offensive line. Then you look at that wide receiver room. You got guys like Van Jefferson. Are you going to re-sign him? In the summer, I thought he was going to be a significant player, and I think that he still had the chance to be. He did come up big in some moments, scoring some touchdowns, a big play here or there. But Van is a role player, and if you're not going to get him at an extremely cheap deal, I don't think you would even entertain the thought of bringing him back. I don't look for Van to be back in the black and gold in 2025. So there's another player you're going to lose, in my opinion. I think the wide receiver room really needs an overhaul. I think you got to go out and try to really spend money on guys like T. Higgins, guys like that, maybe even trade off George Pickens to get some significant draft capital to perhaps spend in the 2025 draft. Maybe that's your path. But again, I think the wide receiver room needs a significant overhaul. You're going to have guys like Mike Williams out there too that's going to be, do you bring him back? Probably not. That wide receiver room just needs a real overhaul, man. I think you keep a guy like Calvin Austin. I think you keep Ben Skoranek. I think Ben Skoranek is a guy that definitely has some real value headed down the road. And GP, I think it's something that you really got to weigh his laziness, his lack of fight out there, play in, play out, because you have to have that from your number one guy. If they're not giving 100% on every play, it's worthless to have him out there. So again, that's a conversation for another day. But again, do you want to bring a guy like Van back? Do you want to bring a guy like Mike Williams back? Do you want to bring any of those guys back that this year maybe you didn't have a ton of success with that you possibly thought you would? I don't think so. I think that wide receiver room really needs a massive overhaul, and I think the Steelers will do just that. You look at the quarterback room, that's really where the last group of significant free agents lie there in that quarterback room. You got McCole Pruitt, too. He's a free agent. Who gives a shit about him? They played him far too much. I wouldn't even bring him back, but yeah, that is what it is. I forgot about that. But you look at that quarterback room, Justin, Kyle, and Russ, all deals expire. What do you do? Do you bring back Russ? I think Russ goes to Las Vegas. I think that's what Russ does. I think the Steelers try to bring back Justin Fields. Will that be a possibility? I don't know. I think the draft is going to really play a significant role into this also. If one of these quarterbacks that they perhaps feel they could get a little bit later in the draft, maybe if one of those guys sparks their interest, maybe they try to bring Justin in at a reasonable price, a $15 to $20 million per season deal for 2 years, fully guaranteed. I think Justin would come back if you said, hey man, $15.5 million over 2 years. Each year, $15.5 million, $30 and $31 million total, fully guaranteed over the next 2 years. I think that's reasonable, and I think Justin would probably take that deal. I really do for some reason. I wouldn't go any more than like probably 20. 20 would probably be my cap if I'm trying to pursue Justin Fields. 20 would be it, man, for me. So I think that's the path the Steelers take. I think they try to pursue Justin Fields. They try to pursue somebody later in the draft. I don't believe they spend high draft capital on it, but if one of those players falls into their lap, they're not going to be afraid to pull the trigger on bringing in a rookie to possibly sit behind Justin to gain some confidence and maybe possibly be that next best thing. So you never know. Kyle Allen, a guy that's a coin flip, he didn't really have any work this season, but that one time he did come in, he fired the ball down the middle of the field when he came in relief in Justin. I like Kyle. If you can keep him on the roster, I would. Kyle Allen, a serviceable veteran quarterback that I think definitely fits. So I would be all game on that. So those are basically the big free agents that are out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. What do? Hard to tell. This team has been very hard to read as of late, considering the lack of adjustments, the lack of really any type of direction from Mike Tomlin, the lack of that direction to where you really feel like this is a lost franchise. One good thing, again, I tell you that offensive line is young, and perhaps that could really be the first stepping stone to propelling this roster into being something great. I firmly believe the trenches have to be solidified first. But man, this team really seems lost. It really seems like it lacks direction. So hopefully we'll start to see that direction and that fire reignited here during this offseason with some of the moves that they are able to make. So that's what we're looking at, guys, here in 2025 right now. I just wanted to start to touch base about the free agents and what possibly could happen there. And just start to work into this offseason a little bit ahead of the Super Bowl. I know we're in this like dead week here before the Super Bowl week. So I wanted to start diving into some of this stuff. I'm going to start diving into some of the draft stuff. I've been doing some research on that, trying to figure out where I feel like the direction the Steelers should be going and portray that to you. So, again, I'll get the itinerary. I'm going to go over to Steelers Almighty and do a Steelers end of the year review. So Big B's going to send me, Brian Hanley's going to send me over an itinerary today, so I should be able to let you guys know exactly, I believe he said 8 p.m. will be the time we kick that off. I believe it's live, so Brian's going to send me that over, and I'll get all those details ironed out. But January 30th, I think we're going to be filming that, but I believe it's live. So keep an eye out for that, and if you're not already, go over and check him out and show some love to Brian and his channel. And also, thank you for supporting Mike Drop Sports, man. We truly, truly appreciate it. And you guys liking, sharing, and subscribing the videos has been absolutely amazing. We are about to hit over 4,300 subscribers. So that's pretty damn cool, man. And hopefully we'll continue that big time gain like we have been here over the last month. So thank you. And until next time, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace, my friends.